Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Citizen Television, and thank you for staying with us. So the Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki has listed areas for vacation by the people who live there since the second phase of the operation will be beginning. And this is part of the government's action to tame the banditry problem in Northern Rift Valley. In the county of Baringo, these are the areas that the government has issued vacate orders. They are Korkoron Hills, Tandare Valley, and Silale Gorges in the county of Baringo. And there are also other counties, including the county of Laikipia, where people have been ordered to move out of Mukogodo Forest, Kamwenje, Werero, and Ndonyorwiro, Lekuruki Hills, Losos, and Kiape Caves, and Sieku Valley in the county of Laikipia. In the county of Samburu, Tungai Conservancy is among the area listed, so as Longewan, Nasur, Lochokia, and Lekadare escarpments, Lolmolo Caves, Pura Valley, Malaso Escarpment, and Suguta Valley in the county of Samburu. The Interior CS also listed these areas in the county of Turkana, and they are Kapelbok, Nekwamoro, Lebokat, Ombolion, and Nadome and Kamur areas in the county of Turkana. And according to the CS, he said that we are taking this war to the hideouts, to their hideouts, that is the bandits by land and air, with all our weight and might, and with all the strength that God has given us to effectively defeat this lamentable catalogue of crimes against humanity. He continued to say that the government shall never surrender the country to criminals. That's according to the Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki. And this is what the Interior CS told members of Parliament last week when he appeared before the House.
The terrorists were retreating to certain parts of these counties which are difficult terrain areas and which are difficult for accessibility by our security agents in the National Police Service. And therefore we needed significant air support and surveillance to combine with our ground officers to make sure that we succeed in flushing them out.
All right, so there you have it, the Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki addressing Parliament with regards to the ongoing security operation in the northern part of the country. That is what we want to discuss this morning. We have a panel of 4, 2 ladies, 2 gentlemen. Allow me just to run you through who we have this morning. In studio, we are hosting Ikal Angelei. She's the Director, Friends of Lake Turkana. We also are privileged to have Honorable Cecilia Ngitit, the Turkana County Woman Representative. And we have a security analyst in studio with us, Captain Retired Aden Sahal, and also Honorable Titus Lotte, Member of Parliament for Kacheliba Constituency. Kacheliba Constituency, I beg your pardon. Now, thank you so much for creating time for us this morning as we kickstart this very important conversation. A lot has been done. Perhaps let me just begin with you, Honorable Ngitit. Turkana County has been listed among some of the counties where certain targeted areas have been identified as suspected hotspots for bandits, and residents have been advised to leave because of the escalated security operation that is set to take place. Tell us a bit about the situation on the ground. How are the people? What is happening?
Okay, as you have said, my name is Honorable Cecilia Ngitit, the County MP for Turkana. As it is now, the situation on the ground is not good at all. I think the areas that the CS has named, the right words to call those areas is the banditry hotspot, not the hideout. Those are the places that are being attacked every day. They lose livestock, life, and everything to the bandits. So it is banditry hotspot, not hideout. A place like Lobokat is, it has a town called Kainuk. You all know Kainuk. There is this prominent bridge, Kainuk Bridge, that used to make news whenever people wanted to transport oil. So Kainuk is in Lobokat ward. So when you talk of Lobokat, it's not a bush, it's not a bandit hideout, it's a town. A place like Kapelbok is another town again. It has schools, facilities, and all the amenities, both government and from mission, Catholic mission, and all the churches. So these are towns in Turkana place. The Turkana places that have been named are towns. They are not the hideouts. So Okay, as we speak, there is an operation going on. I'm told phase 1 is coming to an end. Unfortunately, whenever there has been this operation, but attacks have been going on, you find that there is a KDF camp maybe in some place, but 5 kilometers away, raids are happening. And then nothing is done in terms of returning the livestock to the owners. Life is lost, and the KDF are there. These camps are there. Anti-stock unit is there. All these places that have been named, there are camps there. Anti-stock unit in good numbers, but banditry is still going on. Attacks go on.
Let me just take you back. Are you suggesting that probably the security operation is focusing on the wrong areas from where you sit?
I think so. Either they are focusing on the wrong areas or they are just relaxing. Yes, because I don't believe a bandit can just overcome forces of this country. I think they just have to up their game. Otherwise, attacks are going on and the operations are there. So what do you understand from that? Okay,
the retired captain will give us more about the security perspective of it, and now that the second phase will be beginning soon. Honorable Titus Lote, your constituency, Kacheleba, is in the county of West Pokot, and the county is among the counties where the vacate orders have been issued, some areas that are specific to specific counties by the Ministry of Interior. How is the situation? Tell us more about Kacheleba and the areas in West Pokot where the government has declared the vacate orders.
Thank you, Ayub and sister. I think first of all I want to appreciate citizen for having actually considered the issue of insecurity in the north, and especially the North Rift, as a matter of national importance to the levels where we are allowed to come and discuss and deliberate on that matter here in the television, so that Kenyans can get to understand the perspective of insecurity in the North Rift. I think the President and the Cabinet Secretary for Interior has actually taken it a notch higher to ensure that there is peace in this country. So the fact that you are able to welcome us here basically gives the commitment that you are supporting the initiative of the government in actually pacifying the North. The second thing that I want to say before I actually come to your question is I want to appreciate and thank the Cabinet Secretary Interior, Professor Kindiki Kithure, because he's done something that probably was not done before. And I think the fact that he has actually not noted of areas where bandits are actually, and I want to allow what my sister says, bandit-prone areas. And actually now zone these areas to ensure that there's a lot of operation that is going to take place and to bring sanity. I want to appreciate him because he listens to the Kenyans. Initially, on Sunday, there was a big list of towns and cities and kraals where people have settled since 1980s. And he actually had listed all of them. But I think when leaders went to complain, and I actually saw the leaders from Turkana County, I saw the leaders from Samburu County, I saw the leaders from West Pokot County complaining, I think he actually had to do a review. And some of the towns that are actually habitable, that do not have these issues that had been listed before, were actually excluded from that. So for me, I would want to say that at least the President and the Cabinet Secretary listens. And I want him to continue listening. What my sister is saying here is there are places probably that are still listed in Turkana County that probably needed not to be listened. For West Pokot, I think that the term Pokot, when it comes in, it actually changes the whole situation, because West Pokot is a county, but Pokot is a community. And so sometimes when we talk about West Pokot, people just rush very quickly to think about a community that is called the Pokots. The situation in West Pokot, and I think across all the counties that have been listened, are actually there. The people that have actually been asked to vacate their homes within 24 hours are actually suffering. Already we've got concentration camps at Kolso, or places where people run to schools to try to look for shelter because they do not have anywhere else to go. And so they go to schools, they go to churches, and so wait for their fate there. I saw a lady here from Samburu moving with property, and she was saying, I do not know where to go, and what will happen is that the security people will come and beat me up. I think the situation cuts across all the counties. The people that are going to suffer in this operation are the women, are the children, are the innocent, are the people that are peace-loving. So the situation is dire, and I think let the situation continue to be monitored, and let the cabinet secretary continue also to review his action from time to time, because it's a dynamic effect. It's not a static thing.
Let's talk about that dire situation, Angile. Was it on Sunday that directive was issued that people should move to safer areas, and we've seen locals, hundreds of them, carrying their property and going to these so-called safe areas. But it has come with some great impact. Talk to us about, because right now there are conversations about a humanitarian crisis and the likes. Talk to us about what this has brought to the residents as far as they're dealing with the issue of insecurity. What is it that they're dealing with when it comes to now the operation that is being implemented in the region as a consequence?
Thank you. I want to build on what the members of parliament have indicated. One of the things that's very clear is, when you ask people to move, the first thing is the government should have said where they're moving to. Just to think about it. If there's crime in Dagoretti, you don't move the entire Dagoretti constituency. And this is what they've done with Turkana and with the other 6 counties. So in this particular case, you're seeing, again, it's coming at the backdrop of a drought. So people are moving from place to place in search of water and pasture. And now you're telling people to move further on to other places they don't know. So one of the things you're seeing is where people had settled to at least eke living to get some refuge for their animals, now they have to move further. So it means that you'll see an increase in loss of livestock. The second one is, again, with children, and you've just shown how children have been asked to close school a little early for the midterm, but midterm is 1 week. So unless the CS is indicating that the operation is 1 week only, what will happen to the kids who have to go back to school? Are they being given the same security? And what is the mental situation of a child who's hearing the drop of grenades? There was a lot, a few weeks ago, I think on the 4th of this month, there were grenades that were thrown in, that dropped in Kalimgarok. The trauma it caused to such people, and they actually stayed there. But now you're being told, again, you do not know which direction to go. Some of them moved and had moved to what they thought were safer zones. So you're seeing an increase in displacement for people. You're seeing, as the Member of Parliament has indicated, people are now being forced to stay in concentration camps. But what we are very worried about is there is absolutely no support system to say, how are we going to deal with food support? How are we going to deal with healthcare? Because people were living in places where they could access healthcare, they could access education, they could access some food. But now it's being moved further on with no clear idea around what is the parallel. When you're talking about security, because this is a state process, security should go along with other support services. And that is not happening at the moment. And so people are in fear. And even if the CS has gone back on some of the areas that he had indicated earlier, many people are in fear. And so they're just moving and moving because they're thinking, what does it mean? It was already indicated at first. And because he actually stated and said, we have intelligence. Yeah. And the fact that it was already qualified, we have intelligence that these are places that. So there was already a fear amongst people, and people had started to move. And some were just there and staying there and saying, we'll wait for our fate. And so that both not only physical humanitarian, but also psychological crisis that it has caused on the people who have lived through a crisis from a banditry action, and now living through a crisis from a state operation.
Okay, Captain Retired, the Defence CS, when he appeared before the Parliamentary Defence and Intelligence Committee, never ruled out the military taking over the entire operation. But tell us about this second phase of the layers here, the police, of course, and then the leading the command, and then the military, which is the second phase of the operation. What's the end game?
First, let me take this opportunity to thank Citizen for hosting this type of analysis and debates. When community leaders and security analysts meet and discuss matters of this nature, we bridge the gap between the security. The misconception is actually reduced of operations. Unfortunately, the word operation or security operation has been negatively accepted by communities. If today I ask the journalists in this house, we'll be having a security operation in Kilimani, definitely you have a negative perspective of what is going to happen. And in fact, that is not the issue. The issue here is we have to demystify security operations. Those who are conducting the security, starting from the cabinet secretary, the officers involved, are members of the community. They are themselves victims of this heinous crime of banditry. Not necessarily that they come from West Pokot or Turkana or Samburu or whatever else, but they are Kenyans. Most of them are people who have been victims of, families are victim of this type of crime. And certainly when the cabinet secretary emphasizes on the seriousness of the situation at this moment, it means there has been a change in the way banditry or cattle rustling has been happening before. In 1992, I did operation, the same similar operation in Kainuk, 1992, and it has been happening. What has brought the cabinet secretary to call for such an extensive operation at this moment? It means there has been some element of lull. There has been, no serious follow-up on the situation for some time. And bandits, in this particular case, have capitalized on the absence of security elements or lack of proper enforcement of the rule of law in the particular area. So by the cabinet secretary going that far, telling people to move from these respective areas, certainly it will have political connotations. Politicians will say people are being displaced, people are not being taken care of onto where they move to, but I have no doubt the system has already taken care of that, in the sense that there's no way the cabinet secretary can just wake up one day and say, I want people to move from the general area of Kainuk or any other place, or the valleys that people have been inhabited for centuries. There must have been a pre-arranged movement of these people. If that has not been in place, then there must have been some gaps in the process, which on my side, I will say certainly they must have been taken care of. Because when officers are sent, by the way, let me go back to your question, in the sense that the military's role in this particular case is to support the civil security or the county security committee members in the place, or the respective counties. The role of the military is limited to supporting the police. So the operation is led by the police and the provincial administration. The only role that military plays is to support them. And in that case, I would have wished, and as we deliberate on, I have no doubt, community leaders must have been, or to some extent, must have been involved in the organization of this type of operations. Of course, there will be, push and pull from the security perspective and the political perspective. And until we gain a balance between the two, there will always be this divergent view of the parties.
All right. Mheshimiwa Lote, that level of collaboration that he's suggesting, have you experienced it as leaders who come from some of the regions that have been affected? Because it seems like there is a bit of a disconnect in terms of what is being done vis-a-vis what the residents are going through. Like now, there are questions about whether there was prior arrangement of where these residents are supposed to relocate to, what they're going to eat, how they are going to survive during this time that the security operation is going on. As leaders, have you had these conversations?
Thank you. Sorry to say, the communities in the 6 counties have always been treated with a lot of disdain by the government, by many governments, by all governments. And I expect something different this time. Why? The only time that we met the deputy president was immediately after the elections. I think it was November 2022. And he called the provincial commissioners, the county commissioners, and the political leaders. And we all went and sat at the deputy president's office. And we actually said we need to solve this matter. That was it. That was the last meeting that I ever attended. Everything else we are treated with what we see in the media. We also get it from the ground. I have not seen any kind of meetings that have ever been done by the cabinet secretary with any of the leaders. I don't know other counties, but for West Pokot County, I have not been involved at all. What he is saying is on Sunday, everybody got surprised because, It's a Sunday, everybody's gone to church and everything, and then there is this order from the cabinet secretary giving people 24 hours. I do not think, and I will still want to think, that the cabinet secretary was actually misadvised, because you do not give people 24 hours to go to nowhere. There is nowhere in West Pokot County, in Kacheliba constituency, where people were actually organized to be told you're going to go to a safer place here, you're going to be given this kind of protection, the schools are going to be relocated. Actually, schools were closed on Monday, 5 schools, and we complained because the government did this, as per my perspective, from the constituency that are coming from. There was no prearranged plan, and it's not today only. Every single time there is a cattle raid, every single time there is a military operation, in the north, in the entire north, the leadership are not treated like they should be. They are not involved. And the reason why we always come to react and ask the government not to harm the innocent. And we always, I think every leader here will say, we are not protecting bandits, but do not harm the innocent. Because the innocent in this military operation, including what probably my brother did in 1992, you say, or 2012, the people that always suffer are the innocent. The people we saw in Samburu, the ones that were actually displayed here, the mothers that we are talking about, the children that we are talking about, are not bandits, but they are the ones that carries the brand of this. So I think in terms of organization, the government has never, ever thought of organizing these people. They have never, ever created alternatives for these people. The government has never, ever thought of dealing with the leadership of this area in terms of bringing up the solution. The government believes, I think when I say the government, the executive and especially the military believe that they have the solution. And yet the solution can only be found if all of us sit down and each of us contribute positively towards solving this matter.
Yeah, because I was about to ask, where is this intelligence that the government is using now to inform the interventions in the security situation in the north? Where is it coming from? Because it is the people on the ground who ought to understand the terrain, who ought to understand even who some of these bandits are, because you know your people, right? Mheshimiwa, I don't know whether in Turkana it's different. Maybe there is a different arrangement in your area in terms of the level of engagement. Yeah, on the level of engagement and involvement of the locals and the leadership to get solutions that are sustainable.
Okay, as the honorable member has said, we all saw the orders. And we were shocked. Yeah, none of us has been involved in this. The last meeting we attended is the one he's saying. We were all summoned to the office of the deputy president, plus all the county commissioners and all the security apparatus. We were there. And by then, the situation had not escalated to what it is now. So it was just an alarm, like what you people are saying about, what are you saying about this? What is your take? And then we were just pushing and pulling in that meeting. Then the president said, the deputy president said, you will call us again for another meeting on a monthly basis, but we've never been called again. From Turkana's side, you know, in banditry, there are victims and the offenders. In this one, Turkana people have been victims. It started with a disarmament process that was ordered. So for us, we usually respect the government, by the way. That's why even in the banditry history, you will never hear a Turkana killed a policeman. You will never hear. We fear government and we honor them. So when we were told to bring our guns, we brought them. We talked to our people, they took out their guns. But again, the security was not put in place to take care of our herders and all that. So we thought the disarmament was all over. Okay. And we told our people, hey, this is time we should give out the firearms, the illegal firearms, if you have them. They gave out. There was an operation leader called Salah. We gave all of the firearms. And if you want to know, it is true. From all the banditry attacks that were reported, Turkana people have been the victims, not the offenders. Of course, when we used to have our guns, we could at times be mentioned like we raided a place or what. Then on the other side, we even endangered our people. You know, the other side where Turkana borders other countries, like Sudan, there's no government process in those places. It is just the Turkana person who is taking care of those boundaries. We lose livestock, we lose lives to external aggressors, leave alone these internal issues that can be easily handled by the by the CS. Like when the CS went to Nadapal border, in our border with South Sudan, he made some declarations there, but when he left, the people in Nadapal remained back to pay the price. There was an attack immediately. So Turkana people have to be looked at, because even as we talk about these internal issues, although these internal ones have become a huge thorn in the flesh than the external ones. So we've not been involved as a leadership in how this operation is going on. And you can imagine, as my sister was putting, a person who has been terrorized by bandits, and then you wake up in the morning, you tell that person again to move out of their home. Yet they have been paying the price to stay in their land. And I want to tell you, and it should go public to the Kenyan people, that the banditry in the north, as it is now, it is no longer a cattle rustling issue. It is a land issue. It is a land issue. Okay. Because if you look at it now, there are areas in Turkana East. There is this problem with our neighbors. Maybe they want to expand their territories or something. Because you find a place like Napeitom being raided every day, people burnt alive in their houses. And then the following week, when people are scared out of those areas as they wait for security apparatus to respond, the offenders have settled in that place. There are even places in Turkana as we speak where they have posted chiefs, sub-chiefs from West Pokot in our Turkana land. So what does that tell you? And these are places where several attacks were launched on these people, such that they can be scared away to other areas. Then there's another settlement by the offenders in those places. There are places in Turkana, we've been knowing them by our names, but at the moment they have foreign names. There are places in Turkana South, place like Lochoaka Angela, it is called today Ombolion, with a sub-chief from West Pokot. There is a place called Lopem Alokankare. It is called now Keses. There is a place called Kanglogita. It is called Takawa. These are places, our ancestral places, our land, but they are called by the names of our neighbors. So it is time we spoke it the way it is. It is about land. It is high time the government reviewed the boundaries. Let us know our land. Even in the census that was concluded, the Turkana people were not counted as it should be. Okay, that because the maps were doctored. Okay. Even the gadgets of the government could reach somewhere. Somebody is going to count people, then it tells you you are now in Turkana. And yet you went there with a gadget to count maybe a neighboring community. Okay. So it is a problem that has started from the administration, then to the interior. So they have to sort it out. Yeah, I mean, Captain, she suggests that this issue, and it's a historical issue because it's not the first time that we are addressing the issue of banditry in the north, has morphed into something else. It is no longer what we used to know it as. And such security operations have been mounted in those regions for several years. You've also talked about you being part of, in 1992. As it morphs into whatever it is she's describing, is the intervention also taking up these realities that we are now facing today, or we are using the same old strategies to solve a problem that is now different before us? Indeed. Let me just follow up on what the Mheshimiwa has said. When you put politics into security issues, it becomes difficult to solve the problem. As you can see, already Mheshimiwa has alluded to, this is not necessarily a banditry issue. It is an expansionist aspect. If you ask the other side, they will say a similar thing. In fact, the security team has no role in boundary marking or who lives where. It is the IEBC, I presume, who draws the boundary and such things. Of course, the communities involved are nomadic, and indeed they move from one point to another, regardless of who lives where, or this is not walls drawn between communities. So they follow the pasture. And as people move, definitely the other groups occupy. But is that the role of the security team? What has actually forced the president to come and put all his weight in containing the runaway insecurity in that region is because whatever the cause of the problem, it cannot be, washed away. And for that purpose, leaders from those areas must converge and have a conference with the cabinet secretary concerned, or even the president, for that matter, so that they can work in collaboration
with the security team. The idea of saying maps have been moved or communities have renamed ancestral areas, that is now beyond the security team. For me, I'm given an instruction to go help the provincial administration or the local security team, and my role as a military officer is to support the plan. Hardly, of course, I will not exonerate individuals in the security team from blame to some extent. There are rogue elements, maybe as the minister, the Mheshimiwa has alluded to, maybe in the process of a firefight, in the process of an operation. There will be some element of collateral damage. Some innocent people may end up being victims. But that is a very, very negligible number. For this particular operation, what has provoked the President and the Cabinet Secretary to declare such a dire situation in the area is because there's been influx of arms for quite some time without any hindrance. There has been absence of active governance system at that particular region. Okay. And to contain that, something has to be done. The provincial administration and the intelligence team has made the analysis that we need to quell the problem before it gets out of hand. And that is exactly what the Cabinet Secretary is doing. Definitely with the caution, as my sister puts it. Okay. There must be other plans apart from conducting security operations. All these other factors must be taken care of for this operation to succeed. This is more of a socio-economic problem than a security problem from my perspective. Okay. And until that is covered, these issues will recur from time to time. We may suppress it now, but it will recur in future.
All right.
Okay, we'll talk about socio-economic challenges and under police, and that's according to the former regional commander, that is the George Natambea, who is the current governor of Trans Nzoia County, who alluded to under-resourced police force, who he said at times opt to sell out a portion of their ammunition to get even food, and that now pushes the challenge onto the government to address some of the security-related architecture in terms of resourcing the police. Angele, I'll take your counters to the humanitarian cost that accompanies the current decision. The leaders have complained. The common aspect is that they were never involved, but we move forward to the affected parts of the society. You're watching Daybreak on Citizen Television. The hashtag on Twitter is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya, at Ayub Abdikadir, and at Safin_Acheng. We welcome your contributions as well, and we'll be sampling them towards the tail end of this broadcast. More after the break. Stay tuned.